me. But truly, get on stage for our next talk. So, Andrey, what are you going to tell us? What are you going to talk about?
I am going to tell you and all visitors how to make open source popular.
Okay, open source popular. We like that. We definitely like that. So, please, a big round of applause for our friend Andrey. And yeah, let's get this talk started. Thank you, Andrey.
Hi, everyone. Wait a second. Mouse. My name is Andrey Sitnik, and I'm a lead for-time developer in Evil Martians, the real name of the company. I will share you my experience of open source, which I gathered for the 20 years. So when I started my open source, I looked like this. And my open source account was not on the GitHub, but on the SourceForge. Who has account on the SourceForge? One hand. It was before the GitHub, and it was so bad that I registered at GitHub, one of the first, and get a two-name username because I so hate SourceForge. And during these 20 years, I created a few projects which became popular, and this is why I will tell you how you can repeat these steps. Some of the projects are related, but some of them not, so it's not one song band, and I hope I created some framework. So first question, who want to make a popular open source? For instance. And now question, why do you want it? You know, all our community, all our society tell us that you must to be on open source. You must to have a popular GitHub account, that it is sort of your obligation. But they don't tell us why we need it. Because, they tell us that just create an idea and make it, and it will be OK. If you don't have a good open source project, it's because you don't have an idea. But unfortunately, it's not like this. The open source is very different. And popularity of open source projects become popular by very different reasons. For instance, if you want to become an open source developer with popular projects, to become famous, to have a glory, to be popular, this is not the best way. We know some developers who made some important things, but for instance, this is a Redux project with 60K stars, which is a huge amount, and the maintainer, current maintainer, to be honest, he was not the creator, has only 5K followers. It's nothing, to be honest. There is a better way to be popular. To make a talk, it's not so hard. Try the next time on this event, for instance. Or to write an articles, because articles is much more wide. It's much more easy to change people's minds, to become visible. GitHub projects, a lot of people say that they will not take you to the job if you don't have a strong GitHub account. But creating a new project is a wrong way to make a good curriculum, to make a good resume. Because you can spend a month creating your project, and it could not become popular. It could be a very nice project, but you still will have only 1 star from your grandma. But instead, it's much easier to make a commit to some big projects, because a lot of those projects, they have a documentation. And this documentation of popular projects like the Rust, the React, etc., it is written by the creator. And creator is very bad of writing documentation, because the creator knows how to use things. And he doesn't know how to learn to use things. And you, as maybe a new developer, are going to this way. And you can very easy to make a pull request to the documentation and get commits to the big projects to your resume. Don't create a new projects. Send a pull request. Or another way to get a huge amount of the commits to the big projects. Start to use beta and alpha versions of that projects. You will see a lot of pain, you will see a lot of issues, but then you will start to send issues, you will start to send pull requests and become a core team. It's much easier than create a new project. Or at least build an app. It's much better. The really reasons to make open source if you want to change the world, if you want to change how our development is going. For instance, when I created my project after Prefixer, which became popular, has only one reason. I want to kill another open source project because they did not accept my pull request at the right time. And as you see, it was successful. Another tool was created to make more diversity in CSS tools, to make a framework so other users will create new tools and we will have like a different way of writing CSS. And to be honest, it was successful. It was fun. Another project was created to make a website smaller. But as you know, it's still a problem. Nobody cares. Our sizes is still a huge set. OK, if that formula, have an idea and you become popular, doesn't work, what is the right formula? First, like, I have 4 popular projects. But in the reality, it's not like I created 4 projects. In the reality, most of my projects failed. This is why I think the real formula of success is that like project popularity is the popularity of you as a person, as an effort which you put to promotion, your benefits to user, and luck. And there is no idea here. It's only, from my experience, it's only these 4 main reasons. But it doesn't mean that idea is completely nothing. Useless project will not be popular because benefits for user is part of the formula. OK, so how to use this formula? Let's go to basics axioms. First, the formula. Second, a lot of people think that popular projects become popular because other users choose it because of the rational way. You know, there is an idea that every developer starting a new project make a rational choice across all options. Unfortunately, it's completely wrong idea. Who started project recently, like a year ago or 2 years ago? Do you try to make a small prototype with all possible frameworks and languages? How many languages did you try? How many frameworks did you try? It depends on the system. In reality, most of the projects are started by frameworks with more stars. Developers just go to the GitHub, see the start number, and choose a framework. Or a framework which people talk about on the conference. This is another way to choose. This is not rational ways. Second, this is why I think the real way how people choose frameworks is irrational choice across popular tools. There is many good options which we don't know. For instance, we want to start a project, but I didn't know about that amazing project of CRUD interface. Our wrong idea. Another idea is how we are misunderstand how people think. When people create documentation, we think that our users will sit down in front of the fireplace and will read line by line, construct the whole model. But unfortunately, this is obviously not true. In reality, people read documentation in this stage. That they don't have a time, that they're forced by their team lead, and they need a solution yesterday. OK. So let's think all these axioms. Make a system. First, unfortunately, there is a very interesting problem. In the formula, project popularity depends on your popularity, but your popularity depends on your project popularity. So there is a circle. This is why, unfortunately, we see a lot of popular projects created by popular developers. They are not better developers. They just only have this social capital. This one was one of my mistakes. When I started my project, I have only account in Russian. And as a result, people don't know whom follow when they start to know about this tool. So, first advice. If you have a social media account in Italian or other languages, create, maybe separate it in English, maybe start to divide the content into multiple ways. Second, the formula contains luck. It means that if you have a good idea, good project, put a lot of effort into your project, sometimes it just don't start out. Sometimes you're not lucky enough. And so unfortunately, the only solution is to try more and more. This is the only way to solve this problem. Okay, practical advices. To make your project popular, people need to see the benefits from this project. And the main entry point is README. It doesn't matter, do you have social media, do you have a post in Reddit, in other platforms. Anyway, people will go to README. And this is why it's important to have a good README. This is core idea to promote your tool. And I remind that people doesn't read line by line. But they have no time to read, but they still need to understand the benefits of your project to them. So there is a problem. They have no time to start reading your README to find a reason to continue reading the document. So it's like a self-creating problem. How it could be solved? First, I think this is my framework of starting README. The most important part is the first paragraph, first part of your README, because people doesn't have time to read the full document, and only they will understand that does your tool have benefits only by the first block of the README. As a result, you must put a lot of effort to this small block. First, you need to have a very clear description what it does. Not in some programming way, but in the way how you speak with your colleagues in a natural way. Second, you need to explain how it could be useful. And third, you need to explain why it's important. For instance, by comparing who is using your tool. So, this is why, because this part is very important, it's okay to spend, for instance, a week of working on this document. For instance, this is how we try to make a new documentation for Autoprefixer, and we spent so much conversation just to working on this one, technically not one, 3 paragraphs. The same, the different example, another project. Again, clear description and why it's important by using big users. Another tool, again, clear description and how it's different from the analogous. And with this framework, people will have time to understand why your tool is better. Okay. Let's see bad examples. For instance, there is a Svelte. Svelte is an amazing framework. It's analog of the React. But how they describe it themselves? Svelte is kybernetically enhanced web applications. It looks cool. It looks fun. But does it explain why it's better? For instance, you can explain it a different way. Svelte is a JavaScript framework with unique compiler which generates smaller JavaScript files. With this description, we put why it's important, what it does, what its unique features. How to make the good description? The best way is imagine if you're going to the bar with your colleagues. And they're like, oh, you wrote a new tool. What is this tool? And so the first sentence, you will imagine how you will explain it to your friends in the bar where you already drink. This is the best way of explaining your tool, not a fun, fancy way. But when you make this experiment and create the description which how you will describe it to your friends in the bar, cut it, because short is better. Then, okay, we fix the problem of the first definition. A lot of people think that everything will be read. In reality, people read something like this. So, when you write your documentation, you need to think about progressive spec. You need to explain the benefits in one scale, then in the second scale, and the smaller scale. How you can do it? How you can explain why your project is important for people who have no time to read the full documentation? First, you can use code examples and images, because people need less power to consume image. Second, use lists and select the words with a bold. In this case, people will read the bold, like this. Another advice, use the real proofs. For instance, when I speak that my tool is smaller, I use the real number, because people doesn't believe in general idea, especially if in your market every tool has the same idea, like everyone is small. Another small tool will not explain why it's good. You need real numbers. Or for instance, benchmark. Again, Nana ID, fast, and this is a benchmark. If your benefits is good API, show this API. This will be the proof, and people like to see code. You need less power to read the code. And then, after all these reasons why people should read the document, they will have enough motivation to continue reading the documents. And only then suggest the idea, suggest the step-by-step guide of how to use your tool. People, again, do not have a time to think about to make a right way to use your tool. This is why make a very clear explanation, like for the people who have no time. Like, for instance, I'm not saying that use PostCSS. I explain that try to find PostCSS section in packages on if you're a front-end developer. If it's not, use this config, it's not, install this config. This is like the best way to describe because people don't have a time to read. Even like handle the edge cases and some issues. It will be very good because they don't have a time to debug these things. You can make a separate sections for the different type of users if you can't write a simple step-by-step guide for everyone. And then, of course, test it. Like create a new project and go step-by-step by these rules. Especially it will be good if you will like clean your mind from all memories of your project. Try it. It's hard, I know. But if you will try to clean your memories and then like try to create a new project from the scratch, then you will see what you need to add to the step-by-step guide. OK, we create a good README file. What next? A lot of people make a mistake. They write a single tweet about their amazing project, and it could be really amazing, and got almost no results. And then they're depressed and stop working on this project. What mistake do they make? They make a mistake of not making a slow promotion. Big mistake is to promote your project in one day. Don't do it. Try to do it like iteration by iteration. Why? Because on each when you like explain your project to new people, they will give you feedback. And by this feedback, you will fix your project. When you write your amazing project and want to share it to the community, believe me, your project is not good enough because it's not tested on the real users. And this is why it's important to do promotion in iteration, because on each iteration you will have more and more users. And it's even good that on first iteration your project will not become popular because you need time to fix it, to be ready to become popular. First step, convince your friends in the bar. This is the first iteration. Second step, convince your colleagues to try it on your project. And you have a good relationship. If you have a good relationship with your colleagues, they will like help you to solve the main bugs. Only then go to social media. And then go to social media again with the right tweet. Like a lot of people, when they explain the idea of their project, they just put a link or like cryptographic explanation. How to write a good social media post. Put a code example or image, because people like images, as I explained. Second, put a clear project description. Even if you're talking about some new features, again, explain the project from the scratch, because a lot of people will not see the first tweet. And like, if you add something, put it to the beginning, of course. Then, after social media and first attention, go to Reddit, Hacker News. Then, try to write article in English. Or like, sometimes it's better to start from your local community and then go to English community, so it depends on you, but still. But then, funny part. Even if you create an amazing tool, if it's like a library, don't afraid to go to the other projects with pull request of your library. This is how PostCSS, for instance, was promoted. Like there is a CSS models, it's a way to isolate a CSS. And initially it was parse CSS with almost regexp. But I came to the project and like, hi, do you know that we have a good parser? And instead of regexp, you can use us. And they say, oh yeah, it's a good idea. Like, please send a pull request. Don't afraid to do this movements, because like if you create a good library, like you're helping other people. You're not boring them. You're not like making a bad things. You're helping them to make a better projects together. Win-win scenario. But then, if they apply this pull request, use their names in the README, because people respect big names, unfortunately. This is how it works. And then make another iteration. New article, new release, new social media post, etc. Of course, don't be spam. Instead, be regular. People subscribe to you social media to know about your life. And if you created a new project and spent a lot of time, they'll be glad to see how it goes. Of course, don't post the same messages. Instead, like, tell the story, tell the new features, the new challenges. It's what people expect. Don't afraid to be spam about your project. Instead, try to post it regularly. Why do you need to post it regularly? Because nobody reads each post in social media. Why? Because people don't have time right now. If you create the amazing post describing the whole idea of your tool, and like the story which could melt the heart of the people, and post it to the Twitter, for instance, your client could be like, too drunk this evening. I will not be able to read your message. It sometimes happens. And this is why you need to post regularly, because a lot of people, all your followers will not see a single post. And again, you need iterations to fix issues. So, how people choose the project? They choose it irrationally. What does it mean? Why people choosing it irrationally? Because, to be honest, they need to know answers for very specific questions. Like, when you're choosing framework, you're not choosing the fastest framework. You choose the framework which will support it by the long time, which have the most resources behind it. And this is why regular post is important, because it shows to the user that you have a time, that you have effort to work on your project, that you're contributing to there, that you're not like, forget the project. This is why regular post is useful even for this case. Next, you create the project, it became popular, and now there is another project. You have too much issues. And there is a very dangerous thing that you can be inside circle of guilt. You have many issues, you don't have a time to answer them, and you start to feel that you're a bad maintainer. And as a result, you have depression and lack of productivity. And you don't have time to answer to the new issues, and then you will have more and more issues. So, how to solve this problem? First, don't do everything by your issue reporters. Open source, it's not about using a maintainer as a free worker. Open source is to work together. So if a user wants something, the user can do it. Like, can you send pull request? Then, try to spend a few amount of minutes, like 50 minutes each day, to answer the issues. It will reduce the number. And if it's a hard issue which is hard to explain, it's okay to just say, I see you. I can't spend time on your problem. I will do it later. Because people, they don't need often a solution. They need to be heard. And if you just say, sorry, I too drunk today. I can't solve your issue, but I will look at tomorrow. They could become your best fans. And if somebody reported any issue, even if it can be fixed, try to find, even if it's like a damn user which makes his own mistake, try to find a way to solve this problem in the future. Add a warning. For instance, a lot of people in post-CSS, they miss a parser and plugin and use a parser in the plugins list. And we have a check, and if they do it, we show a message. If they have the same question again and again, add frequently asked questions to your README. This is how you reduce the number of issues. And if a user asks some questions, or can't understand something, ask these users to change the documentation, because the user knows better how to do it. But how to deal with negative feedback? What if some people hate your tool? No, first, there is no way. like negative feedback is hard. Negative feedback could really hurt your soul. Unfortunately, this is true. Okay, but there is a few interesting things. First, you can start to ask questions. Like a user, like, I hate your tool. Why do you force this tool and not the tool B, which is better? Start to ask the user, like, why do you think B is better? Why it's important? Because your haters sometimes they not hate you. They just need to be heard. They just need somebody which will listen their pain. And then, don't afraid of your competitors. We create open source not to become popular. We create open source to change the world. So sometimes competitor could be your freedom. For instance, in post-CSS, there is a lot of projects which could replace post-CSS. And people ask me, like, don't you afraid of this project? And I always answer them, no, because I finally will be free from supporting post-CSS. Okay, resume. Success formula. Your project popularity is your popularity, effort to promotion and benefits for user, and luck, unfortunately. People are choosing irrationally from the popular options. This is why even a good project could not be chosen. People don't read the manual line by line. This is why it's important to create a good README with clear description, step-by-step guide, etc. Do a regular posts. And that's all. And make a good projects. If you have any questions, write to my social media.
Another great talk, another great talk. Are there any live questions right now for our friend from Post-CSS? Do you want to open a live issue right now? No? Live fix? No? Not happening? Okay. Any questions on this side? Okay. So I've got a few for you, actually. This a discussion, really, if you will. So being a maintainer, definitely, yeah, people can wish you the worst sometimes, can't they? We've seen it. Like, how many of them have you got? Like, how many things have you had to endure at some point?
It depends. Funny part, I'm from Russia, and the Russian community, which should be, my home community, which helped me, this is the community which brings the worst feedback, the worst issue. I was struggling to find a good negative feedback for English version of the talk, but for the Russian, it was full.
Lovely. Well, it's funny that you also showed competing libraries or slower libraries and so on. Do you think how do you feel about time also being a factor in dealing with projects and getting them out in the open space? As an example, at Schrödinger Hat, 2 years ago, we built a library. It was possibly, I'm not sure, 100% sure, but possibly it was the first project released that would take, it was a very funny one, but not a serious one, that would take all your GitHub things and do a Spotify kind of thing like GitHub Unwrapped, okay? Nice. And so we built it, we released it, no luck, I'm afraid. No popularity, no luck, that was it. So being first doesn't always help, definitely.
Yes.
Other projects with a few more followers definitely did better than us in 2 or 3 weeks, and they were also great, so no worries about that. But I'm wondering, how can we become better at factoring all these things all together? Because I know there's no right formula, but there's gotta be some spice that we can use to make it a little better.
The funny part about the competitors is in open source world, is your competitors is not your enemy. Like when I create for instance, post-CSS, right now, Compass outsource, we are have a connections, and she sent me a junior developer from the Google to solve the problem of post-CSS. Because it's funny part, but if you will write to your competitor and wow, amazing projects, we have the same, let's share. It could be becoming a nice friendship, and maybe it's together projects. In some moment, even the Compass start to share my tool, and I share the Lightning CSS to become free. Yes.
Thank you. That was great. I've got one last one for you. And again, are there any from the audience? Okay, so my last question for you would be, as a society, I think we are getting used to dopamine spikes. So like when you're on social media,
Oh
you
yeah.
scroll and you get all that dopamine spike inside of you, and things need to be faster and faster and faster. And
Yes.
we're kind of becoming like the what is the name? The red fishes in English. I can't remember the name. The golden fishes, right? So like 2 seconds memory and wiped out. Because we're getting used to having things very fast
Yes.
for us. But open source and maintaining is not fast at all. And it's a natural thing. As you go to work, and because you usually don't do it as a job, you do it in your spare time most of the times. Some are lucky doing it for a job. So how can people learn to cope with the fact that an issue might be opened and it could take like 3 days to even beginning to talk
days
about
is-
it?
3
Yeah,
days
it
is
could
fast.
be. Like, as an example, last time, any one of you know MSW, the stub library to get like HTTP requests and stop them in testing?
Okay.
MSW, no one? Okay, you should try that, it's a good one. But yeah, I joined their Discord servers, and 5 days in, still no answer. But that's good, because they are probably doing something else. At some point, they might answer. So how do you think we could cope with that?
5 days, it's so like short, because my first pull request when I became an open source developer was to the tool called Lemonade. My first pull request on the GitHub, yeah, because like SourceForge. So I got an answer a year or 2 years later with a maintainer closing my pull request without any description, because he just deleted the whole file, which was like pull request 2. And it was not like, I'm rewriting a whole library. It was just, there is one bug in this exact case. Like, this is a test. This is a fix. Nothing more. 1 year. So, in reality, the solution is very simple. People, they don't need a solution right now very often. They need to be heard. So if you're a maintainer and you have an issue and you have no time, the first thing, like, I hear you. I understand your pain. And it's sometimes enough. People can't wait for years if you will say this on the first day. The second one, ask them to solve the problem. So I feel your pain. I see you. It's your time to fix it. Because it's open source. You are not a fixer for their bugs. Your project is a project for your needs. This is their needs. If they have a bug, they could fix it. And third thing, my next project will be about the dopamine and try to reduce this problem and try to help you to create a good habits of social media. So follow my social media. I will post it there.
Nice, nice. Thank you. Well, I would say a big round of applause for our friend here. Thank you very much. And of course, you know very well that you are also a very, very much open source champion. We all used your library at some point in life, so thank you for doing that.
Thank you. But I do have 2 more. I'm the last one.
Those 2 are the last ones.
But I'm the last speaker.
You are the last speaker. Yeah, we did 2 more. I don't know why. We were probably on drugs. Well, they were. Don't do drugs, kids. It's a bad thing. So we will be waiting for people to join us from the other stage in this room, because you know very well, and you might have guessed it by now, I do